This off, so if you want to get the recording, great. Well, hey, welcome everybody. Welcome to the California Environmental Literacy Initiative's District Innovation Hub webinar series. Kind of a monthly session in the spring where we explore different topics on environmental literacy and how to take it to scale across districts in California. Today's topic is connecting facilities, operations, and student learning. We are very excited with our panel of presenters today and to bring this topic to you. So, as we get started, just a little bit of context. My name is Nate Ivey. I'm the co-chair of the Cali District Innovation Hub, and I'm an instructional coach in the Fremont Unified School District. I'll play the role of MC and host today, but most of the content and good stuff is going to come from our fantastic panel of presenters. So now you know a little bit about me. We'd love to learn a little bit about you. And one way that we've been doing that in this webinar series is having people add themselves to the map. Amy, I don't know if you noticed, but I've updated our image of the map. Very exciting to see participation from all corners of California, and we'd love to have you join the map as well. So Amy will put in the chat, she might have already done it, a link to a Padlet. Open up that Padlet, and in the lower right-hand corner, you'll see a magenta plus button. If you hit that button, you can drop a pin on the map from your location. Then you can edit the card related to that pin to tell us who you are and a little bit about your organization. You have the ability to share links and images and say a little bit about yourself. It's also fascinating to kind of just look around and see who's in your neighborhood and who's in the different corners of the state engaging in this work. So go ahead and open that Padlet and add yourself to the map if you haven't already done so. If you've done it in the past, you might find your pin and see if there's any edits or updates you'd like to add. While you are opening that up, I'm going to just share a little bit of background information about the California Environmental Literacy Initiative and some of our goals. So you can listen to me droning in the background as you work on your Padlet map. But the California Environmental Literacy Initiative, or CAELI, has a theory of action that through innovation hubs and kind of supporting networks around the state of California, we can move from a system where we have these pockets of excellence around the state where some kids are getting access to some really fantastic environmental learning opportunities to creating a statewide system where every student has access to these. So our goal is to really ensure and guarantee that all students in California have access to high quality environmental literacy. One of the approaches we have to that is innovation hubs, so community partners, county offices of education, and then our hub is the District Innovation Hub. We view districts as an essential unit of change. And if districts can work on those guarantees, they're in the best position to support students in their communities. We have a number of other innovation hubs: equity, green career education, policy and advocacy, and professional learning. You can learn more about all these hubs at ca-eli.org, cali.org. Across Cali, but especially in the District Innovation Hub, we're interested in systemic change. So, beyond, a pilot program or beyond, this one teacher, this one school doing an amazing thing, we're trying to think about how can an entire system work together to fulfill this promise. And there's a number of systems approaches and systems models that I think that we use every time, but I think are especially relevant to today's conversation about facilities, operations, and learning. You might be familiar with the Green Ribbon School's 3 pillars that talk about environmental impacts and cost. They talk about health and wellness, and they talk about sustainability and learning. You might have seen the Green Schools National Network framework that thinks about leadership and the role of leadership, the climate and culture of the community, the intersection of curriculum and instruction, but also the role of facilities and operations. And then a framing that I think will resonate today is the 4 C's model: campus, curriculum, community, and culture. So as we're thinking about facilities, operations, and student learning, we're trying to think of how a whole system works together. And for those of us in school districts, we often know that there can be challenges with the communications within our own systems between instructional services, business services, HR, and some of the other branches of a district. Our District Innovation Hub has a number of goals, building a community, sharing environmental literacy and sustainability resources, building capacity, showcasing leading edge exemplars, and delivering some really good support strategies. And we view the webinar series as a good way to achieve many of those goals. So hopefully you make some connections here, you see some good examples, and you're able to, build and grow your own capacity. We also support in-person networking and other methods, regional convenings, and others to advance these goals. So here's how we're going to tackle this today. Our topic, again, connecting facilities operations and student learning. We've been through the welcome and connections. In our first chunk, we're going to explore the topic of how does student learning intersect with facilities. How can students learn from our facilities? How can students provide input into the facilities? How can they use the facilities to advance environmental learning? In the second chunk, we'll take a look at how students can intersect with operations, and we can think about how we can achieve simultaneously environmental goals and educational goals. Let's see. To help us do that, we're going to be joined by presenters from Ocean View School District, BCK Program, Stop Waste, and Laguna Beach Unified School District. We hope to leave some time for whole group Q&A, but please, as questions come up, add them in the chat. The presenters will be watching the chat and might be able to respond directly. And then, as always in these sessions, we offer breakout rooms at the end where you can have small group conversations with the different presenters to ask follow-up questions and learn more and share resources and examples from your own experience. So, I think a little bit of context setting can be helpful here. California is very well known for its environmental reputation. Both on the education side, California has a long legacy of supporting environmental education, but also on the environmental action and sustainability side. And one example of that is California's climate plan. California has really ambitious climate goals that think about all aspects of our state. And to achieve those goals, schools are going to play an important role, both in educating the population, but also in taking environmental actions that reduce impacts. There's a number of laws on the books that impact systems around the state, including school systems, and you can see a number of them listed in the facilities and operations list here. On the facility side, it's interesting to think about that, schools in the United States, the average age of a school building is 49 years old. So we're not often talking about these brand new LEED Platinum facilities where students can, learn the latest and greatest. We're talking about often making the most of the facilities we have and, learning from the built environment that we are faced with. Students are also in a position to provide recommendations and updates to their community about choices that are happening in their communities. So a question to keep in mind, how might students learn environmental principles and concepts by studying and supporting campus facilities? We'll have presenters kind of helping us think about that question. And then on the operations side, how might districts achieve environmental and educational goals by involving students in the operations of schools? So to get us going here on the first part of this, we're going to take a look at facilities. In this section, we're joined by Camille Sawinski, the managing partner for BCK Programs, Mandy Lamb from Ocean View Unified School District, and Bobby Brown, the head of maintenance for Ocean View School District. Ocean View School District is emerging in the space, but doing some really exciting things to connect their students to opportunities to learn about environmental principles through a facilities lens. And we're going to start with a school district story. So I'm going to turn it over to Mandy and Bobby Brown to tell us about what's happening in Ocean View School District. Mandy, Bob, take it away.
All right. So hi, I'm Mandy Lamb, and I'm a district resource teacher focusing on math and science in Ocean View School District. And before that, I was a classroom teacher and a site resource teacher focusing on STEAM education at Laguna Vista Elementary in Oxnard. And that's the site where our project took place. Bob?
And good afternoon. I'm Bobby Brown. I'm the Director of Maintenance Operations and Transportation for Ocean View School District. I appreciate you inviting me, Mandy, to participate in this. I've been the facilities director. I've been in Ocean View for 35 years. I've been the facilities director since 2015, and I did a variety of roles before this at the district. So it's a pleasure to be here. So at Ocean View School District, Mandy Lamb is a sparkling, wonderful educator that I was really impressed with when I moved to the role of Director of Facilities. And at the Laguna Vista Elementary campus, we've got a water well system there. And I was working with the State Water Resources Control Board for some water quality issues there. And I was kind of focusing on that. I had some time on campus, and there were some kids hanging on the chain link fence near the water well system, and they were kind of asking what I was doing there, this tall, bald man. And I just kind of sparked my interest, and I was working with people that had jobs in that career. And I thought, well, gosh, these kids could have jobs and learn about the water at their own school. And so I really approached Mandy Lamb so that we could kind of work together and start talking about some of those things that the kids would have interest in, the aquifer system and water well systems and that sort of thing. And then we branched out into some other ideas of the septic system and jobs and things, and learning about that in the curriculum. Mandy, do you want to go further on that?
Absolutely. So Bobby and I started talking, and Laguna Vista is out in the country. They used to call it the country club. We're surrounded by fields. And then we started thinking about different possibilities of things that we could do. And on the next slide, I'll share some of the brainstorming that we did, thinking of the next generation science standards and the facilities there. So like Bobby mentioned, we talked about the water education and understanding how the well system worked, and how it brought water to the school. And then we also talked about teaching about energy conservation with the changing of all the fluorescent lights to the LED lights in classrooms, and then labeling the different wildlife areas in the schoolyard with signage and QR codes linked to videos that would, of course, be made by the students. We have an owl barn, and we have a hawk platform. Bobby had the idea of an urban forest, like labeling the trees and which trees were native and which were planted there by the farmers and why. And there was even more ideas. That's why I put 2 brainstorm images on here, because there was a lot of brainstorming. And what we decided on was, I was teaching a GATE class at that time, that we were going to do a lesson sequence around where does Laguna Vista get its water. And it was fascinating because not a single student knew where the water came from or that we were on a well. So it was really interesting to get that information. So just started with turning on the faucet in the classroom. Where does this water come from? And I knew we had a lot of learning to do. So we created activities and lessons, learning about the Earth's water, aquifers, the groundwater, the watershed, and how wells work. And then Bobby arranged for a City of Oxnard employee to come out. And then we took the class out to the water tanks, and they showed the students exactly how it worked and how the filtration system worked. And they got a little bit of a hands-on. They couldn't get too handsy on, but they were able to get out there and really, really understand how the water came to Laguna Vista. And then this led to further student inquiry, including discussions on saltwater encroachment, and then ways that we can conserve and protect this resource. and getting more into that environmental literacy aspect. So it was awesome to be asked to share about this, because bringing up some of the files, I realized that we had done a lot of work on this, and I wanted to share some of the things that we learned. The first thing was, it's about the relationships. I feel like this was able to happen because of the relationship that Bob and I have. And we were able to just very easily collaborate and talk. And we both had this same shared passion for making learning relevant and meaningful for students. And like, it was just so obvious to us that if we could teach students next generation science standards using where they are and where they spend so much of their world every day, why wouldn't we? So anyway, build relationships and partnerships, align the standards and facility education ideas, and look for authentic learning opportunities at your site. Like Laguna's out in the country, so we had a lot of nature and it's on the well, but see what's special about your site and where those authentic opportunities might be. And then start small, but start. We did get a little, our ideas got a little big, where we started designing a whole school-wide water education, tiered, gamified learning. Yeah. I mean, I'm looking back at that and I'm like, did we do that? That's amazing. we should revisit this for sure. And then reach out to other organizations specializing in those topics. For example, we collaborated with Kurt Holland from Project WET, City of Oxnard, and there are so many community organizations and resources out there that are experts in these areas and willing to help. They want to be part of this education. Next slide, please. And then, so we're getting really inspired this week and thinking about inspiration for future partnerships. And we were talking about our food services. We've got farm to school education. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to talk to my friend Patience, who's in the food services department, and they are running this farm to school program. And I was going to go over, I think yesterday, to talk to her, but then she walked right in front of my cubicle, so I grabbed her. And then I told her I wanted to know more. How can we bring this education to classrooms? And then the head of the food services walked by. I haven't seen her in months. And so we started talking, and we're setting up a meeting with the Ventura County farm to school person in ways that we can bring this education to the different grade levels according to what those science and environmental literacy standards are. So super excited about that. Ideas for maintenance, the maintenance department, we've got solar energy, water education and conservation, gardening, drought tolerant, butterfly friendly, and low maintenance, which I learned is our district's, what is it? Our district's criteria for plants and gardens. And transportation, we've got electric buses. And we thought it would be cool to bring an electric bus and a regular bus, and students could see the workings and learn about the differences and how the energy conservation there. And then on that last bullet, I put your idea here because I would love for everyone, if you have any ideas, to put it in the chat, and then maybe we could share some of our inspiration with each other. And then
Really,
I
I
think
like Angela Vergara's love this start small, but start. And you can see that Mandy Lamb is just a ball of energy. And once you get her started, she and I just ping pong off each other. we then have to kind of channel our energies. But it was just awesome to be able to work with educator that had a passion for showing the kids the surroundings that are right around them at Laguna Vista School with the water well and the various educational things that she put together to show them water filtration through sand and show talk about non-potable water that the city of Oxnard was cleaning up and delivering to the site, the septic system, then the owl barn and the raptor platform. The tree things was a really cool thing. Mandy, you're just fantastic. I just believe in you. You're so sparkling, and the way that she kind of brings that energy off onto other people that are willing and interested partners really just kind of captures more people into this goal that we have together. And yes, the way our food services is growing food and serves some of the snacks to one of the participants here. It's just fascinating. I don't mean to cut you off, Mandy. I just wanted to tag into that. Yeah.
Oh, no, thank you. And thank you. I've enjoyed working with you, and thank you for your kind words. And I probably need to pay you for all of those very kind words you said. So that's our idea in a nutshell. And I hope that that has given you some inspiration and some ideas for ways that you can connect your facilities with your classroom ed.
Mandy, Bobby, thank you so much for sharing this example from your school districts. The importance of those relationships and making those human connections to move these ideas forward just really resonates. And just the power of saying hi and learning about each other's work. And the wondering what if we tried this? I really appreciate those approaches. Mandy has put the call out to everybody. So if you have an idea about how students can learn more from the facilities that are in their district or in their community, throw them in the chat. We have a kind of operations related one on food waste audits, and we'll hear a little bit more about that from other presenters in the session. So yeah, feel free to add more ideas there. One thing Mandy called out was the advice to engage specialists, people who have expertise in these programs and in these kind of specialized topics. And we're really lucky to be joined in this session by Camille from BCK Programs to talk about some of the expertise that they bring to support schools and to support school districts and educators in their region and around the state. So Camille, take it away.
Oh, well, thank you. As Nate mentioned, my name is Camille Sawinski. I'm with BCK Programs. And I was just so struck by Mandy and Bob. Everything you were saying, I maybe got a crank in my neck from shaking my head so much and agreeing. And I'm sure if you're on this webinar, and I know if you're one of the speakers on this webinar, I just saw Joanna's name on here. We're definitely each other's people. So it's really nice to be here. BCK Programs, we are a group of passionate environmentalists with expertise from all over different spectrums. We have Jamie, who's a marine biologist. I went to law school. Barbara's a master gardener and a master composter. Kathy, who's one of my the curriculum writing partner, has her master's in education. She's a teacher, but she's also a water engineer. So we bring a diverse background of different experiences that all kind of fit together really nicely in trying to put together eco-literacy on a school campus. So anyway, if you would advance the slide for me. Okay, just a quick kind of recap of how we are working and who sponsors us, because we are not a nonprofit and we are not like a department of the school district per se. We are a separate business. Our partners are schools and school districts. We are hired by them and also by cities, and sometimes we get grants through schools from utilities to help us do our work. That works out really nicely because schools are happy. They get NGSS, eco-literacy, project-based learning, and sustainable best practices at their school. As a result, cities are super happy because we kind of fit with their climate goals and their other community outreach needs and utilities as well. And I'll just point the pictures that I've chosen. One of them on the lower picture is our wipes, clogs, pipes, which I'm sure you've heard ad nauseum. It's a very common slogan that water utilities use to try to get people not to flush their wipes. And so what we do is we teach our kids about, in some cases, if that's the topic, water infrastructure. And then the outreach is to the whole community about how wipes clog pipes. So we're pretty good at getting the word out to, in the case of Encinitas Union School District, where that slogan took place, 5,000 people in one shot, because we'll promote that to the whole community. So next slide. Okay, just a quick, I think Mandy did a pretty good job about talking about what these programs hit as far as academically, NGSS standards. We cover like career pathways. We're definitely a good fit for all of these science aligned standards and some other Common Core standards. We do put, we throw in English language learning, because if you're writing a letter to someone who's a decision maker, you're also doing a writing program. Our topics are vast. As I mentioned, we do climate action, renewable energy, air pollution, waste diversion is a big one right now. And I know we're going to hear some fantastic presentations about that, so I'm not going to focus on that. And of course, garden and outdoor education. So if it's an environmental issue, and I'm saying that from our perspective, we can cover it, but also from your perspective, if it's an environmental issue, it's happening in some form on your campus. And so with Dr. Baird, when we were working at the Encinitas Union School District, we kind of were saying like school is a lab all the time. And everything that we were doing to do environmental upgrades at the school was becoming a science-based lesson. So just think about that as you approach doing environmental education on your campus and facility upgrades. Everything's a lesson. Okay, next slide. Okay, just briefly, we're here to talk about the facilities relationship, but there are some definite academic outcomes that are a result of these projects and programs that should not be overlooked. When students collaborate with the facilities department or any admin department, child nutrition services, especially with food waste, you are going to have academic outcomes because kids are doing real world work, right? And they are hoping to bring about a change upon their campus. And even when it doesn't work out, I'll show you in some other slides, it's still a really good scientific method lesson. So, one of the other outcomes is helping the whole school district kind of reframe their outlook on how they fit in eco-literacy with their plans. At the case of Encinitas Union School District, and I use that as an example often because that's the one my company has worked with for like 15 years. So we have a big, long history to draw from. And I don't know, like the very bottom picture, if you can see, that's a great example of how to bring about kids getting involved in like a really big community issue. So the Encinitas city has their climate action plan. And currently we're working at one of the elementary schools to come up with a school climate action plan. And we're going to be presenting that to the school, but also to the school district, because we think that the school district should also have a climate action plan. And we've tried in its look and also in its meaning to match it exactly to what the city's plans are. So we won't go into too much detail, but like for building efficiencies, if they are trying to get solar on a whole bunch of houses at the school, we're trying to get teachers to use their solar tubes or to be more efficient with their lighting. So we can match up the goals that the city has with what the school we would like to have and what the school district would like to have. And then finally, coming in May, and you're all invited, if you'd like, we're doing a big eco-literacy showcase. So it's our third year doing this big showcase, and we invite everybody who is doing any kind of environmental project or activity. It doesn't have to just be through our BCK programs at the school, to come and showcase it to the community. And it's kind of like a humongous science fair, but also it's a humongous community outreach event. So the mayor is coming, parents of all the kids are coming. There's well over like 300 people that will come, and they are all going to stop by our student booths and learn what is happening at their school and what should be happening at home. Okay, so next slide. All right, but for facilities and our partnership with facilities, it is crucial to doing these projects. And so you see before you Eric Smith, who is the current facilities director at the Encinitas Union School District. And you see him meeting with kids in a class. They're trying to convince him to bring back a rain cistern at this one campus so that they may use that to, I think they want to use it to use it in their composting so that they can not use like the regular water and conserve water when they're doing their composting in the garden. He said yes, so spoiler alert. But our facilities director comes to all of these classes that we do. And he's like so completely tied to not only him, but the grounds crew is invited in whenever we do things. The CNS director is invited into these classrooms, and they become a very integral part of any of the changes that we make. And we do, in this particular district, like to make changes that are facilities sustainability changes with the student involvement. It's almost kind of like how they do it in that school district. I do work at other school districts across San Diego County, and we do involve the facilities directors as well. Maybe not as in depth as we do at the Encinitas Union School District. So you see on the left all of the changes that we've made, shifting to metal utensils, after first shifting to bamboo utensils, putting in washers and dryers so that the plant managers or the custodians don't have to throw out their towels that they're using to clean up. All of our solid waste diversion, waste stations, brain harvesting, shifts in the menu. Students will study the menu, or they'll do a waste audit, which you'll probably hear more about, and then find the item that is like really not popular and then report back to the CNS person. And if you have a good responsive relationship with that person, likely you can get a menu change, and kids feel very empowered to help with that type of stuff. Shade trees, and so much more. So next slide. Okay, I'll kind of go in just a little bit. Dr. Baird had asked me to talk about water and energy because I know we have waste covered. So we do some pretty in-depth programming about water quality. And you can see here is a lesson going on about some water samples. So we have students study the water samples on their campus. And if you know anything about like stormwater collection, sometimes you have rain and you can do a great stormwater collection. Sometimes you have to teach students how to do a dry weather collection on their campus in order to get the water sample to then test to see if there's pollutants in. So all that being said, that's a great lesson for kids from start to finish anyway. We're teaching them all of these water engineering principles along the way, but we're also testing the water quality from their school. And we're testing it for sediment, we're testing it for like fertilizers and phosphates, and making sure all along the way that none of that is going down into the storm drain. And that is very important because obviously we don't want the school site to be contributing to any pollutants running into the storm drain. Another water program that we do is responsible water use. And with those, we'll test to see if the aerators are really kind of reducing the flow of water. If they're not, and we do some comparison, we'll give the data, because we're always collecting data. We'll give the data to the person who would need it most, in this case, probably the facilities director, and maybe make a recommendation that we need to change out our aerators to reduce the flow of water. But that's just like an example. Or we'll turn all of the sprinklers on in the school campus and see if they're watering the sidewalk instead of the actual plants. here's a great success story of when we tested rainwater. We saw that there's definitely a lot of sediment going in the storm drain. We partnered with our facilities department, put in a bioswale basically, and some curb cuts, and we were able to mitigate the amazing amount of sediment that was going down the storm drain. That's only possible with the partnership of the facilities department. So that was a great lesson for kids. Obviously, it was a huge success. They could see it in real time, and they probably, I didn't work on this one particularly, but I'm sure they like learned about plants that they would need to put in, what kind of rocks, what kind of layers would have to go underneath. So they learned all those water engineering principles. And then they also cleaned the water, which is very easy for them to understand. So the next slide is a failure that was also, I would consider, an academic success. So there's a place on one of the campuses, they call it the Muddy River. You can see the picture, like the water sediment is going right into the storm drain. They wanted to do another bioswale, which is in the picture on the right. And you can see it didn't work. So this is like a really great way to use the scientific method. When something goes wrong, you test it and then you redo it the next time. We always are collecting data, as I mentioned, and there you can see there's the students' turbidity results. So they're constantly collecting, and they did a test after a rainstorm, and they found that the turbidity was a little bit better, and now we can see why, because the bioswale wasn't really working. So in this next year, they will redesign and try to improve upon what was already kind of, a good idea, but needed to be better. All right, next slide. Okay, so energy. This is a snapshot energy. So the Encinitas Union School District has solitubes. So Dr. Baird could probably tell you the amount we spent on putting solitubes in all of the schools and all of the throughout the school district. They were expensive and they work great, but it's been really tricky to try to get teachers to use them or to remember they have them, or when we have turnover, to when the teachers first come in the classroom, their first day at the school district, to tell them that we actually have them. They look just like light switches on the wall, and you would never even know they were there unless you kept reminding them. Well, our students keep reminding them. And so we usually do an energy unit in most of our schools most of the years. And the single greatest, I think, outcome from those programs are teaching kids that they need to remind their teachers that they have solitubes to keep them open. But we don't just tell them, we make them, well, you can see these kids are studying a solitube, so they learn every part of the solitube. We also bring in light meters, and we measure the light in the room with all the lights on, with all the lights off, with the solitubes on. And we let the kids know that as far as like the building standards, there's enough light in the room with the solitubes on and all the lights off so that they can make a cogent argument to teachers when they talk to them. And we do put them out there to convince the teachers. But we also found out that most of the classrooms they have the checkerboard lighting. So we've learned that if you keep half of your lights off, you also, by building standards, have enough light in your room for reading. Actually, some classrooms have enough light for like doing surgery, which is not really required in schools. We're not dissecting frogs necessarily in 3rd grade. So one of our big campaigns is to half light the room and take the half light challenge. And so you see there is a switch plate that will fit right over the light switch. Will remind teachers either to keep their lights off and use the solitubes, or to take the half light challenge and only use half of their lights. And you can see by the chart, which we also use in our curriculum, that about 30% probably still holds true of energy use in a school is going to lighting. So if you can just knock that part out alone, I mean, at EUSD, we should be able to knock it out totally with our solitubes. But like at schools that don't have that technology, you could just take that right off the top by turning out half the lights, or if you can convince your facilities director to de-lamp your room. So like, you just take out a couple tubes in the lighting thing, and then you don't even have to worry about teachers remembering anything.
Camille, thank you so much for all of these fantastic examples. I think it gave people a lot of insight into ways that students can learn from their facilities and then participate in helping the campus make the most of their facilities. I do want to move it on so that we have enough time for all of our presenters. So we're going to transition from thinking about the facilities and kind of the built environment to the ways that we use that and kind of the operations that happen within those spaces. We're going to continue kind of in the expertise realm, and we're going to hear first from Angelina Vergara, who's the school's program manager for Stop Waste, which is the Alameda County's Waste Management Authority, a government agency that provides a wide range of environmental services within Alameda County. So Angelina, take it away.
Hi, everybody. Really glad to be here. Loving the presentations myself, learning lots and definitely connecting. And I'm here to just share and very humbled to share the stories of hundreds of students in our county and operational staff stories of how they partner to take climate action through our 5 A's teaching and learning model. Next slide, please. And a little bit more about our agency is we pivoted from just being a waste reduction and energy efficiency public agency, and really during the pandemic re-strategized and really thought about what is, you know, our new vision in post-pandemic world. And we just really wanted to ensure that our approach in serving communities was intergenerational, where we include the children and students to take action to empower them and really work toward a thriving and resilient community and Earth for all. Next slide, please. And so I'll just be talking about our partnerships with operational staff, because like Tammy had mentioned, the partnership and relationships is super important for students to connect with operations. We'll talk a little bit about our framework, and I'll give some examples. Next slide, please. So if you saw in the vision statement, we're really looking to look at local economies, and economy just meaning how do we manage our home? How do we manage our Earth? And make those connections for students. And the models that we've been looking at, they aren't really getting us out of the climate emergency. So we're really leaning to a regenerative economy, what does that mean? Next slide, please. So what we are talking about for regenerative economy is how do we go from an extractive economy where we're just taking from the earth and really making it regenerative. So again, what does that mean? Next slide, please. And I leaned to my child, he's 11, but when he was in first grade, I asked him this, and he said, oh, regeneration is just like a lizard. It's like, it's not just a lizard losing its tail, Drake. And he's like, well, it's okay, I get it. It's like Pokemon. It's like Sharmar, when he evolves, he becomes Charizard, and his tail is more powerful. And I was like, exactly. Regenerate means to evolve into something more powerful. So it's not just about restoring the earth. It's like, how do we make the earth and our communities more thriving and more powerful? Next slide, please. And we lean into this book that actually Nate Ivey shared with us at our team at Stop Waste. Catherine Berger Kay, who has this great book, Complete Guide to Service Learning. And she talks about the 3 R's: academic rigor, relationships, and relevance to engage students. Next slide, please. And what has culminated from a regional approach, we brought, in like 1997, we brought a bunch of different counties in Northern California together before the Green Ribbon. And we just asked, you know, what does it mean to be a green classroom, green school, green district? And it's now culminated to what we call the 5 A's of action-based learning, which is a little bit of service learning, a little bit of place-based education, experiential learning, but it's really trying to engage students at every level of the 5 A's. So, and for Aspire, we lean to Yale University Climate Literacy, or Climate Institute, and with the uptick of climate anxiety and the socio-emotional needs of our children, really we want to cultivate students who know how to navigate the world by finding people that care as well. And if they can vision collectively, it will drive action. So we bring students together and we have them audit. We could audit waste. We could audit anything that we're curious about for our climate situation. Then from that audit, that will drive the analysis of that data and research to plan an action plan. We'll implement the action plan, and then we'll aggregate or bring together, reflect, and celebrate. What did we learn so we can continue to work? Next slide, please. So what that looks like is we embed this curriculum of Aspiring Together in all our programs. We ask students, what do you value if we gathered around a fire? What are things that we collectively value that activates our action to get to what we envision? Our fourth graders, they always say what they value is pets, family, and friends. And we've surveyed hundreds of fourth graders and high schoolers, and they just want a clean, healthy, green, safe earth. And then what are those R's that get us there collectively? Next slide, please. And we are a waste agency. So I'm just going to lead into Stop Food Waste Action Project. We have students be scientists who study garbage, and then we help facilitate them to take action. Next slide, please. And the first thing we do is we look at the food cycle. Where can they make the largest impact? Where do they have existing relationships? Who's already partnering in this area? And innovative ideas to take action. And we also are part of network, so we're always sharing ideas that we can share with students. Next slide, please. So looking at sort and collect of the food cycle, we have students we've done every waste audit from just the landfill to contamination and compost. What is the story they want to see? And usually we do the landfill, and what is you may know, food waste is the number one thing we're finding in the landfill. And as you may know already, that causes methane emissions, where methane is 96 times more powerful than carbon dioxide or tailpipe greenhouse gases. So if they want to make an impact, according to Project Drawdown, let's make sure we reduce food waste at the school. Next slide, please. And that can activate operations. So that relationship with the custodian, it could be that there's a grassroots movement where students are looking at that waste audit, they're working with the custodian to take action, and that might roll up to that operational decision-making and policy-making or school board resolutions, where we have many of our school districts have a solid waste or food waste reduction and even a student-led school board resolution to reduce food waste. And it looks like taking action where we can do food share. Schools, as you might know, have regulatory compliance needs with SB Senate Bill 1383. They must have sorting at the cafeteria. And now, as of January 1st, Nutrition Services has to recover food to be redistributed to the community. Next slide, please. So students really can take action there. In their waste audit, they might also see that a lot of it's packaging, and there's now Senate Bill 54 that's looking at single-use packaging. Also, horrible forever chemicals that cause cancer and endocrine system issues with community health. And so we've been partnering with Center for Environmental Health, plastic-free restaurants to get our schools to change their single-use to cafeteria reusables, and we're having a lot of success there to reduce waste. So the operations and nutrition services is super important. And I also wanted to share, just make many of you that maybe the audit is just looking at the school campus. So doing an assessment with the students and then having conversations. And what we're finding is, there's so many amazing partners of school gardeners and school landscapers that want to get involved. Here also, we also work with 15 cities and jurisdictions on their climate action plans and have conversations with them to onboard students and answer the question, how can students align their work to help facilitate climate action plans or implement them for their city? Next slide, please. And one of the really interesting heat island effect action projects, we partner with Green Schoolyards America, where students look at the surface area and they record how hot is their playground or how cool is it. And in San Leandro, on a typical day of 67 degrees, they found 143 degrees surface area temperature on the playground, that plastic playground. So next slide, please. So maybe that propels them to be like, hey, let's have gardens. Like the top right is a picture of Berkeley Unified School District. They've been exploring Milwaukee forests, which are fast growing, climate friendly, carbon sequestering forests that grow within a year. So there's really exciting things of working with schools maintenance and facilities managers to see how they can rethink landscapes and maybe edible landscapes for that matter. Also, just kind of looking at, we're working in Berkeley and we're like, oh, do you have induction cooking? And they're like, yeah, we actually have some culinary academies that have electric ovens and facilities. So really sharing those stories to kind of norm that hopefully in other schools in their culinary academies. Next slide, please. And also in San Leandro is during the pandemic, students were like, hey, can we design a garden while we're sitting at home? And we had students rethink their rooftop at their high school. Next slide, please. And they looked at the gaps of the food systems in their community. They designed the garden. Under action, you can see their rooftop garden fruiting. And again, that bigger impact where they worked with operation managers to make sure that it was load bearing, efficient for a garden. Could they put a pond there because it's super heavy? And that partnership actually then got showcased in their city's climate action plan as a case study for community ownership. And the last A is aggregate and celebrate. How important it is to just make sure you're reconnecting with the students, because we know there's a disconnection to our behavior in the earth as a society. So making sure that we just ask them, like, what did you learn? And making sure that you're celebrating with your operational staff, because that really helps activate their community to care about their campuses if they don't already. Next slide, please. And we have lots of resources, and thank you again for having me.
Angelina, thank you so much for sharing all of that. A lot of amazing resources there. I'm reminded of a student that you've worked with who had a quote that says, I don't want to wait till I'm an adult to make a difference. So students are aware of some of the challenges in their community and they have ideas about how to solve them. And so, thanks to Stop Waste and BCK programs for highlighting the intersection between cities' climate action plans and actions that students can take in support of environmental outcomes in their school districts that support their learning and their growth as a member of their community. So thank you so much for sharing that. All right, we're gonna kind of close out. We've got a little sandwich here. We started with a school district. We're going to end up with a school district, and I'm turning it over to Laguna Beach Unified School District, who's been doing quite a bit of work to come up with a comprehensive set of plans for connecting learning and operations. So we're joined by Ryan Zeta and Glo Harwood, who are going to kind of talk us through Laguna Beach's story. So Glo, Ryan, take it away.
Thanks, Nate. I'm Gloria Harwood. I'm our coordinator of environmental literacy. So I support the instructional side of all of our environmental literacy and sustainability work. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. And really this work in sustainability was actually kickstarted due to a really dedicated group of board members. They wrote a board resolution April 2022, which then led into both Ryan's position and mine, and kind of just the urgency of needing climate literacy and sustainability on the facility side in our schools. And by the way, I'll try to keep this as short because I know we're limited on time. And then that led into our framework for the future work, similar to Encinitas. And we used environmental literacy as the cornerstone of those learner experiences in the classroom and also the learning outcomes to represent the whole child. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. And we're a really unique school district. We only have 4 schools. We have 2,300 students, 2 elementary, 1 middle, and 1 high school. So when we're looking at environmental impacts and climate vulnerabilities, we really are focusing on one city. So we have a lot of interesting climate vulnerabilities in Laguna. And a lot of climate traumas. We had a huge 1993 fire that burned down 300 homes. We had a landslide in 2007 that took down 14 homes nearby in middle of Laguna. So we really want to teach our students that this is rooted into our city's rich culture and history, and to empower them to be informed decision makers in the future, and then also be those leaders in sustainability. A lot of our students, that's where they play. They surf, they mountain bike, they love to get outside, but understanding the value of that is super important for us. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So our sustainability work, we're in year 2 of it, so it's rather new, but we've had a lot of outdoor spaces dedicated to learning and also interdisciplinary environmental literacy work prior to our sustainability work. This year, we applied for the District Green Ribbon Award. We established green teams, and then we started rolling out professional learning to build that capacity to support our teachers in sustainability instruction. Go ahead and go. Oh, and then also, sorry, to go back, last year was for year 1, it was dedicated to facilities and operations. We partnered with Green Schools National Network and Tim Baird to help guide us through what are some projects that are on the operational side. And then year 2 is strictly dedicated to, or not strictly, but the design work is in the instruction piece. Moving forward after year 2, next year, we're going to be really blending everything that we've been designing into facilities connecting with the classroom. So go ahead and go to the next slide, please. We really structure our sustainability goals after the green ribbon pillars. So these might look really familiar to you. We're going to start just kind of talking about our projects that we have going on in goal 1, which is reducing environmental impacts and costs. I'm going to pass that over to our director of facilities, Ryan Zeta, and sustainability.
Hi, thank you, Glo. It's a pleasure to be here and to get to share with you some of the great work we're doing at Laguna Beach Unified School District. So like Glo mentioned, we started our sustainability work in 2022, year 1. We dedicated it to the facility operations part of the work to reduce energy and waste. We also prioritized sustainability within our watershed due to our geographic location near the Pacific Ocean. We have schools that are we have one school that's right up against Crystal Cove State Beach. So to highlight some of those projects that we were able to tackle, one of significance was our HVAC control system. As we know, HVAC uses a lot of energy. So a simple and cost-effective solution was a wireless thermostat system made by Pelican. We installed it at all of our school sites. It gave us complete control so that we can only use the systems during the school days. They're off outside of school hours and non-school days. Plus gives us more management within the school days times. We can widen those thermostat set points, make adjustments. So that was a huge win right there. We replaced most of our lighting through Prop 39, but we were able to kind of take a step back and see, what did we miss? Because, every project's going to have, more phases or more things you could do. And we tackled a lot of our exterior lighting last year. We put in lighting controllers, upgraded or installed so that we could have more control of our site lighting and our exterior building lighting. I think the neighbors appreciate that also. And so do our night, evening custodians who have to be on site at night or whatnot. We reduced our paper towel use. When I came here, I've been here about 7 years. We used a lot of paper by putting hand dryers in most of our restrooms, all of our student restrooms, a significant decrease in and paper towel, and you save a lot of money there too. Water quality was something that's really important to myself. I have a civil engineering background. We implemented a WQMP at El Moro Elementary School, which is our elementary school next to Crystal Cove State Beach. It involves weekly inspections, documentation for our maintenance logs that we're checking and cleaning the filters that are in each of our drains. We have a clarifier system that separates that water. And then we have some oversight through an engineering firm that we hired that does a monthly inspection and supports our work there. We're also working with them to expand that program so we can implement a water quality management plan at each of our other school sites. So that's something that we're looking forward to doing. We also have a non-toxic landscape maintenance plan. So this organic non-toxic plan we implemented a few years back. It's been something we've been able to sustain. We basically hand pull all of our weeds, but it does more than that. They use battery operated equipment and small tools, yeah, it's been something that it was not easy to implement, but we were able to do it, and we've been doing it for a few years now. So that's something that's been very well received. I think next slide, we'll jump over to, oh, you're already there, 23, 24, sorry, you're probably behind. Looking ahead, something that we're doing right now is we are developing an energy master plan, and we're doing it through the lens of sustainability. I think plans were done in the past for different reasons. We've hired an engineering firm, P2S. They came out, they did ASHRAE level 3 audits, which means they looked at every single make model of all our HVAC, light fixtures, equipment loads, you name it. They are already developing energy models. So we're modeling all of our current energy use at our school sites. So we know exactly what we're using, when we're using it, and it can kind of correlate with our operation practices so we can make sense of it all. They are putting together a project list for us that is cost estimated and also prioritizes those projects. So they're giving us a roadmap because we have a resolution to be carbon neutral by 2030, which is a very big undertaking. And this energy master plan was our way to get there. Focusing on some projects that will probably be included in that plan, which we hope to do in the near future, is transitioning our theater and our stadium at the high school over to LED lighting. There's massive energy savings there to be had. We're looking to install solar systems, increase our solar systems at our school sites, also add electrical vehicle charging in our parking lots. And eventually we do have we have a clean natural gas bus fleet right now, but we do hope to switch that over to electric as soon as it's feasible. So we're working on that. A focus for this year, a huge focus is waste disposal. I think everyone's has a lot to do with that, and I've heard a lot about that from the other presenters today. We want to effectively use that tri-bin. We have the tri-bin, but we need to really effectively use it. We need to get the compost and the compost, the recycling and the recycling. And it's an effort that facilities has a huge role, but it takes everyone to make it successful. So we're transitioning from waste management over to CR&R. That was more of a deal with the city of Laguna Beach. So we're switching providers, and that gives us a great opportunity to kind of take that step back and really make some adjustments there. So like the high school, they're not getting back as many trash dumpsters as they have now. They're actually going to get some swapped up for recycling. And so we're actually going to use the transition as a way to be able to make some changes right away. I think none of this is possible without the strong support from our board and our superintendent. I appreciate the partnership with GLOW. We've created a great partnership, and it's great to see what we're being able to do with integrating all the sustainable practices and facilities into the sustainable instruction. We're a small district. We do a lot of stuff almost in a silo. It's a small business department. So having GLOW there now, like I have a partner now. So everything we get to do in facilities, I have someone to bounce it off and talk to. And so it's really just a team approach to facilities and sustainability. That's the only way to actually tackle it. So, yep, we got a great thing going on here with GLOW, and I'm going to turn it back over to her. So thank you.
Cool. Yeah. So everything that Ryan does, he loops me in, and I'm like, okay, how am I going to connect this with what the students are learning? And as much as like enrichment and those clubs, advocacy groups in an institution, a school institution is super important, we want to make sure that it's accessible to every single classroom and every single teacher, because environmental literacy is normally put on the backs of a science teacher in NGSS curriculum, but we see it as a civics concern, something that we could utilize in our data science classes, our math classes, TK through 12. So what we've been doing is with our energy master plan, we have been rough drafting sustainability dashboards that we are going to have on our website. And we have a draft done right now just on data that we've had from bills, utilities bills. And that piece, yes, it's going to be used for the community, parents, families, and whatnot. But how can we use this as an instructional piece to teach ratios in a 7th grade classroom, percentages, computation, model making? So those are some examples of how to increase that participation across classrooms, but also not just classrooms. We want to expand into our goal 2 targets with mental health and community engagement. We've been using our spaces to help support our counseling staff and our school psychs to use the classroom as a form of nature RX. How can we use it as an intervention for students to have a sensory activity or just to kind of debrief from the day? So we've been working together to build out a plan with our mental and social emotional department on creating nature as a form of intervention, which is so cool. We've been partnering with our Family Resource Center on bringing in the community on our sustainability efforts. And we've had 2 of our first kickoff events there. And I've been coordinating with our community engagement coordinator on these sustainability-based community activities. So really in Laguna, we talk to everyone. Again, we're small, but we're all working together on these efforts. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. And these are just some examples. I can go more into it, but I want to keep it short. So for on the environmental literacy side, really using our spaces for laboratories of learning. We've heard that echoed in the other presentations, and we're doing things very similar to that. But the biggest concern is, how do we get buy-in from teachers? We get the normal response, which I was a teacher too, and I can totally resonate and relate, that you have a lack of time, right? That's what every teacher will say. So how can we capacity build and get that engagement and excitement where the teachers feel comfortable to have these environmental literacy lessons or action projects, phenomenon-based projects sprinkled into their units? And by doing that, we go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Oh, next slide, please. Thank you. We establish sustainability leadership. That's one step. At each site, we have a green team lead that gets a 3% stipend. We also have me as a coordinator of environmental literacy that's able to curriculum map connections to every single classroom, every single subject that we have TK through 12. And also we embedded it into our LCAP goals, which was super important. So when we do that review as a district, we have that sustainability focus. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Oh no, it didn't update. Sorry. I added it last minute. Okay, so you could go back to the previous slide. I'll just walk you through this. So how do we create buy-in? And in Laguna, we see our teachers as they are fully capable in taking on hard things. They are amazing professionals. So we bring in our instructional coaches to do a professional learning event that happens 3 times a year called Unit Design. This is new. We've only been doing it for the past year. And so what we do is instead of taking the funds that we might spend on a third-party vendor to come in and connect with us, we use those funds to put it into our teachers' pockets, where if a teacher redesigns a unit to make it project-based, if anyone's familiar with Hattie's T3 learning model, we use that, and they get paid just to design the unit $1,200. And if they implement let me make sure I get this correct, because it changes every year because we keep adding in money, which is amazing. But so if they write the unit and design through the day, it's $1,200. And then if they make it a T3, that like solutionary place-based unit, then that's $300 added onto it. If they team up with someone internal or external, that's another $200. This is where we get the buy-in. If they want to make it a sustainability or environmental literacy unit, it's another $300. And then it's like Oprah, there's more. If they speak at a conference or if they write an article, it's $600. So we've had, I think now over 110, it might be more, teachers participate in this. We've had over 110 units designed from this. I think around 60 teachers have participated in this. Again, we're a really small district. And they start with an essential question. When we had our unit design last week, and it was the second unit design where we had sustainability embedded into an incentive, we had over 75% of the units be environmental literacy based. And I wasn't even there the first half of the day, so I didn't bribe them. Like, I didn't give them a spiel. So they just holistically chose, like, oh my gosh, we're starting to see the value in it. And if they don't have the time to dedicate a whole day because subplans are hard to make, or they just don't want that money to go to Europe in the summertime, whatever, they can join my lunchtime green gathering events. So instead of paying an after school instructional rate, and do an hour of environmental literacy professional learning, we bring them in during lunch and we'll buy them lunch and have a 30-minute just conversation on quick strategies to support them in environmental literacy. And it has been a huge turnout. And we've had 4 sessions so far. First, defining as a district what environmental literacy is. The second one is, the second session was engaging strategies. The third one is for PBL. And then the one that we're going to have in May is just bringing back everyone together as a community of practice of kind of what they learned and how it can connect across curricular. And I've been getting a lot of feedback on that, the positive feedback. So that's that building capacity and just like really just supporting our teachers, because they're the ones that are connecting with the kids every single day. They know their kids, they have the relationships with them. And if we get them excited, the whole campus is going to be excited. So, and that's just how we're monitoring. It's pretty across the board. But yeah, that's Laguna. And thank you so much for listening to my spiel, or our spiel, Ryan and I's spiel.
Hello, Ryan. Thank you so much. It's really fantastic to see all of the threads come together in a really strategic and comprehensive way. I know there's a request for a resource in the chat, Glow. I hope you see that. Thanks to all of the presenters for kind of helping us think through the intersection of facilities, operations, and student learning, and the ways that those connect to our overall goals as a state, as a species. Really appreciate that. So a couple of things to kind of close us out. I'm hoping Amy's still around and can drop a link in the chat for feedback. We do appreciate your feedback. We do pay attention to see what kinds of topics are of interest to people. And if you have a story to share that you'd like to communicate, we'd love to hear that. So we'll get that link in the chat in a second. This is the second to last of our webinars this spring. We're going to wrap up this year with troubleshooting some of the challenges of taking this to scale district-wide. We often see this starting with a teacher champion, a school site that's really engaged. There's challenges with burnout. There's challenges with resources. There's challenges with communication. So our May 30th session will focus on strategies for overcoming and addressing those challenges. All of the webinars, including this one, are recorded, and the slides are or will be available on the CAELI website. I do want to just highlight a resource that was released earlier this week, the California Green Schoolyards or Green Schoolyards America released a report about California schoolyard tree canopy. So this is a great intersection of student learning, student health and well-being, operations, maintenance, facilities. But basically, the headline here is that we need about 30% tree canopy coverage to protect ourselves against climate impacts. And our schools across the state average about 6% canopy, and even less in the areas that students have access to. You'll often see the trees on the perimeters of campuses, but very few shade trees in areas where students are. So there's a lot of great data in this. I encourage you to check it out and think about and wonder, as Ocean View did, what if? What if? What can we do with this data and information? The CAELI supports a CAELI partner portal. We did hear from 2 fantastic community partners today and the services and expertise that they bring. You can search the CAELI partner portal to find providers in your area who can provide that expertise. If you're a provider and you're not listed in the CAELI partner portal, you can get yourself listed by visiting the website and filling out some forms about the services you provide. We do like to offer breakout rooms and an opportunity for people to connect. We'll have that for about 10-12 minutes today. We're going to offer a couple of breakout rooms. I do believe Ocean View had to drop off. They had a conflicting meeting after this, but I believe BCK, Stop Waste, and Laguna Beach are still around. So we're going to open some breakout rooms, invite the presenters to go to those rooms. And if any of the participants here have questions or want to share a resource or connect with one of the presenters, we encourage you to visit a breakout room. We will close those at 5:30 so everybody can get on with the things they need to do. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope to see you next time. So breakout rooms are open. If anybody needs help getting into a room, just come off mute and let us know what room you'd like to move into.